My name is Ian Warner and I'm your host. And today we're going to be talking about how to make sure that you do the things that you say you're going to do. Before I even jump into that, you should definitely make sure you go to course.thehabitstacker.com because anything we talk about here in this podcast, we're going to dive into deeper and make sure that you have all the steps in order to be successful with building your habits through that course. So make sure you check that out. But the the whole point of doing what you say you're going to do is simply not just being someone who talks. There are way too many people who are just talkers. They talk all day. They say they're going to do this. They say they're going to do that. They say this thing's going to happen. They say next year this is what's going to happen. And as you look at their lives, what you notice is that year after year, everything's the exact same. I've had this happen before to myself where you say, oh, well, next year I'm going to do these things. And then next year comes and your life's the exact same. So it's like, how do we get out of that? How do we change that? How do we make sure that we're not just talking and that when next year does come around, we actually are better? We're actually doing better. The things that we said we're going to improve actually have improved. How do we make sure that we're there? Well, one thing I know for myself is that you need some type of game plan. Like, it's not as simple as just saying, well, like, and anybody can say, well, next year I'm going to have a gazillion dollars and I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Well, great. But what are you going to make sure you do every single day to make sure you get there? Because I think the thing that people actually get wrong that can mess up our trajectory or mess up the progress we want to make is that we think it's going to happen faster than it actually does. And I think that messes people up a lot, is that even if you do the things that you say you're going to do, you say, hey, I'm going to work out for the next 90 days. I'm not missing anything. And you do it. But maybe you don't lose the amount of weight you thought, or you don't feel as good, or you don't look as good as you thought you were going to look. Whatever it is, something doesn't happen the way you thought, then you figure it's not working and you give up. But you have to remember that habits are very much a behind the scenes thing. Like, think about it like this. If you are in the habit of writing 500 words a day, after a week, you don't have a book. You don't. You're not even close. Like, if you want to have even a small book, you probably need at least 25 to 50. And that's a small book. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you need at least 25 to 50. So if you read 1,000 words in a week, you got 5,000 words. That's nothing. But if you do that for a month, ooh, now we talking. Now we got something. And that's only a month of doing something. What happens when you do that consistently for a year? Now you got a couple books. Now you got some blog posts to promote those books. Now you got some momentum. Now things are building up in your favor. But you don't get there. You don't get there unless you are going after it every single day. It hasn't even been a year. Since June 2019 on thehabitstacker.com. So I just told you to go where I said, go to course.thehabitstacker.com. Instead of going there, you just go to thehabitstacker.com/blog. Since June 2019, I have released over 400 blog posts. Over 400. And we haven't even gotten to a year yet. 400 blog posts. How? By doing what you say you're going to do. This is a big reason why I created the habit tracker on the App Store. It's not for my own just enjoyment. It's because I know something that a lot of people don't realize. And it's that what you track and what you measure is much easier to improve. If you weigh yourself every single day, it's a lot easier to be like, hey, you know what? I need to lose some weight. And it's a lot easier to know exactly where you're at and how much progress you're making towards that goal. It's the same thing with these habits, right? When you plug them in and you say, okay, these are the things I want to do. Well, every day you need to make sure you check those things off. And if you make sure you check those things off every single day, what you get in the app is called a perfect day. And that's where you've done all of the habits that you assigned to yourself for the day. Got them all done. Got them all green. They're all checked off. And if you knock out enough perfect days, you keep racking up these perfect days after perfect day after perfect day after perfect day, your life's going to change. It might not in 5 months. It might not in 6 months. And sometimes it might not even in a year. Next year might look the same. It might. Just depending on what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go, it might look the same. But after 3 years, it's going to look different. And that's, for some, that's just too much to handle. To think that you got to put in work for 3 years? 3 years? 3 years to get some benefit? But in truth, though, the glory that and everything that you're looking for, and every single person that you see that is successful right now, is because they do what they say they're gonna do. They say they're gonna show up somewhere, they show up. They're on time. They put in the work that they said they're gonna put in, and they do it consistently over a long period of time. You have to lock that type of mindset in. You have to be ready to do those things. Now, when it comes to how, I would say one big thing, big thing, because what we're really talking about here, we're talking about change. Like, how do we change ourselves? And one of the big reasons is the reason why. This is why in the app that there's a mission. Because you need a why, you need a purpose. Why are you doing what you do? What drives you? What gets you up in the morning? There has to be something bigger than just yourself. It has to be a big, because when it's bigger than you, because the problem with just doing things for you is that if you're not feeling you, and say you're in a slump or in a little bit of a depression or whatever, then everything could just fall off because you're not that interested in you anymore. But when you're doing it for someone else, when you're doing it for something bigger than you, that's one thing about family that I know is some people won't do anything for themselves, but they will for their wife. And if not for their wife, they might for their children, or if not for the children, or their husband, or whatever their situation is, you might do it for somebody else. But what you got to figure out is why. Why does any of this matter? If you want to lose weight, why? Because what you'll notice throughout your habits, there's some that you might put down that you'll stick to them. Like, you won't miss that for nothing. But there's others that, you're not as serious about sticking to. And a big reason is that the why is not there. Maybe every single day you read because you have a why. You want to succeed at something bad enough that you're willing to learn about it every single day. But then when it comes to working out, you don't really want to lose weight that bad. You don't really want to be in shape. You don't really see the purpose. You don't see it benefited in your life. You don't see what being in shape can do. So you don't take that as serious. You need to get your why down. You need to know why you're doing what you do. You need to know why you are doing what you do. You need to know why you are doing what you do. When you know why, the other pieces start to fall in place. The other pieces they just start coming to you. You just know what you need to do. It's easier to wake up in the morning when you know why you're getting up. That's what I always say to people. Look, when people always ask me this question, like, Ian, how do you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning? How do you do these things? It doesn't make sense to them. How are you getting up that early? I'm like, I have a reason why. I know why I get up. That's why, there's nothing else to it. I have a reason to get up. I have things that I want to do and work on, and I won't have the time to do those things if I don't get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It gives me a why. It gives me a reason. So if you are having a hard time change, believe me when I say this, it starts with your why. You don't have a reason to change. I see this all the time. People saying they're gonna do this, that, and the next thing. Oh, Ian, help me do this, help me do that. And I know if you're doing the same things over and over and over again, and things aren't changing, it's because you don't have a why. It's because deep in your heart, you have no reason to change. There's no catalyst to make you do something different. I think one last point I'll make here is the best example I've seen of this is expenses. And the one thing I can say about cutting expenses, usually cutting your expenses is a good idea. It usually is. If you're disciplined, it's a good idea. But if you're not disciplined, here's the problem with cutting your expenses. When your expenses get lower, you have less reason to go make more. I'm going to say that again. When your expenses get lower, you have less reason to go make more. When people have high expenses, it's amazing. They just magically find a way to keep making the amount of money they need to make. But when those expenses drop, all of a sudden, they're like, I don't have a reason to make that much more money. I don't have rent. I don't have a car payment. I don't have this payment. I don't have that payment. I don't need the money. And mind you, if that's what makes you happy and you're good with that and your life's fine. But what a lot of people think is, man, if I cut all these expenses, I'm going to save a ton of money. But what ends up happening is their income drops because that reason goes away. Don't underestimate the power of reason. When it comes to being the type of person that wakes up every single day and does the things they say they're going to do, your reason why will drive you to keep that up. Your reason why will allow a beast in you to wake up that does not let you slow up on these habits.